before I begin, guys, if you didn't see my other videos, please go check out my other two videos. The first one is about why I left my former channel. You can get all the details there. Please watch from start to finish so you can get that info. And then the other one is that they made me cry. What happened? So make sure and watch that video from start to finish. And I would also like to say, I was giving away $100 gift cards because I'm having to restart. I'm not monetized. I cannot do that yet. But if you guys wouldn't mind helping support my channel and support me in growing, please make sure as quick as you can, if you feel called to, like the video, subscribe, hit notifications, comment, and share my content so that way I can get up and running, I can get monetized and start doing giveaways and give back to you guys. I would so appreciate that. And if you want to help me, make sure and watch the videos start to finish. And if you want to watch them several times, as long as you make sure and watch them and do per YouTube's rules, that would be fantastic. Okay, on with the show about what is happening in the world. Let's take a look. Hi guys, welcome to Katie's Insight, where I don't have an intro or an outro as of yet. I am still figuring that out. But today, I did want to talk about stimulus, but I think there is a bigger issue that also ties into stimulus checks, and what's coming down the pipeline for us. And that has to do with, if you guys heard, President Trump has caught the Rona. By the way, you guys have to forgive me. My laughing is not because I'm happy about this. It's because I'm losing my mind. 2020. Anytime you see me laugh, it looks inappropriate. It's 2020. This is how I'm dealing with it. I apologize. I want to talk about a few things. This might be a little bit of a lengthy video. I just want to give you a heads up, but I mean, that's my videos. First of all, I want to say to anybody in the White House, Hope Hicks I know has this, both Melania and Trump have tested positive. So to both of them, speedy recovery. To all of them, actually. Anybody who has this, but especially to the president and Melania, this must be very scary and very difficult, and my heart goes out to you, and I hope you guys get better as quickly as possible. That being said, I'd like to go into the details, because it's not just the fact that they have the virus. It's also how we do this election. And then I want to tailor it to some of the reactions I'm seeing from people. Here's the thing. You can have any reaction you want, okay? On my channel, I just want you guys to know, like, I don't want to scold people for however they choose to feel or what they want to express, but there are some things that I see that, honestly, in my opinion, are concerning, and I want to bring up. So, let's go ahead and let's dive in. So, like I said, Hope Hicks was the first one. She first tested positive, and as a lot of us know, the president, as he's been doing his rallies and doing different things, which I'm going to cover all this. I want to cover all the sides of this debate and, kind of see what people are saying. But so far, he has really put out this rhetoric. Very few people get it. He's even said before that it's not real. This is something that's not real, that might be a blank theory. Want to try to stay, even though I'm not monetized yet on YouTube, trying to stay within monetization grounds. Trump has been going into this quite heavily and quite a bit about this situation with the virus, and that it seems like there's a lot of back and forth as to what's real. And I'm not saying it isn't real, right? Please understand me. I'm saying there's so much information flying around about this. How do you keep up? And when you have the CDC and the WHO and they change their minds and opinions every other week, what are you supposed to do? It's really hard. It's really hard. And that's all I'm going to say, is that I can understand both sides of people who are frustrated on both sides of the spectrum on this argument, but they have tested positive. However, we have an election, which, by the way, sound off in the comments if you want me to do a full reaction to the election, because I've been thinking about it. I would love to break it down and give my insight, if I have the energy. As you guys know, some stuff's going on. Looking at this situation, like I said, I see it from both sides, but if we have this election coming up, what's going to happen? Can there be an election? Can they postpone an election? How is there an election if he's too sick to perform? Now, here's the other thing. Many people have mild symptoms. In fact, a lot of people test positive and they don't really present symptoms. However, we are hearing reports that President Trump is saying that he feels achy and feels sick. So what happens with all of this? Who takes over? What's the situation? Let's dive into it. And, okay, so first I have an article of information. I want to pull this up, go over this, and then I want to go over the details into what could happen. So let's take a look. And this is from the NewYorkTimes.com. It says, Trump tests positive for the virus. The president's results came after he spent months playing down the severity of the outbreak that has killed more than 207,000 people in the United States, and hours after insisting that the end of the pandemic is in sight. And from Washington, President Trump said early Friday morning that he and the First Lady have tested positive for the virus, throwing the nation's leadership into uncertainty and escalating the crisis posed by the pandemic that has already killed more than 207,000 people, Americans, and devastated the economy. Tonight, the FLOTUS and I tested positive for the virus, Mr. Trump wrote on Twitter shortly before 1 a.m. We will begin our quarantine and recovery process immediately. We will get through this together. The president's physician said Mr. Trump was well without saying whether he was experiencing symptoms, and added that the president would stay isolated in the White House for now. The president and the First Lady are both well at this time, and they plan to remain at home within the White House during their convalescence. The physician, Sean P. Conley, said in a statement, without saying how long that would be. Rest assured, I expect the president to continue carrying out his duties without disruption while recovering, and I will keep you updated on future developments. Other aides to the president would not say whether he was experiencing symptoms, but people at the White House noticed that his voice sounded raspy on Thursday, although it was not clear that it was abnormal for him, especially given the number of campaign rallies he has been holding lately. Mr. Trump received the test results after one of his closest advisors, Hope Hicks, became infected, bringing the virus into his inner circle and underscoring the difficulty of containing it, even when the resources of a president. Mr. Trump has for months played down the severity of the virus and told a political dinner just last Thursday night that the end of the pandemic is in sight. Mr. Trump's positive test could pose immediate difficulties for the future of his campaign against former Vice President Joseph R. Biden Jr., his Democratic challenger, with just 33 days before the election on November 3rd. Even if Mr. Trump, 74, remains asymptomatic, he will have to withdraw from the campaign trail and stay isolated in the White House for an unknown period of time. If he becomes sick, it would raise questions about whether he should remain on the ballot at all. Even if he does not become seriously ill, the positive test could prove devastating to his political fortunes, given his months of diminishing the seriousness of the pandemic, even as the virus was still ravaging the country and killing about 1,000 more Americans every day. He has repeatedly predicted the virus is going to disappear, asserted that it was under control, and insisted that the country was rounding the corner to the end of the crisis. He has scorned scientists, saying they were mistaken on the severity of the situation. Mr. Trump has refused for months to wear a mask in public on all but a few occasions and repeatedly questioned their effectiveness, while mocking Mr. Biden for wearing one. Trailing in the polls, the president in recent weeks increasingly held crowded campaign events in defiance of public health guidelines and sometimes state and local governments. When he accepted the nomination of on the final day of the Republican National Convention, he invited more than 1,000 supporters to the south lawn of the White House and has held multiple rallies around the country since, often with hundreds and even thousands of people jammed into tight spaces, many if not most without masks. A positive test will undercut his effort to change the subject away from a pandemic that polls show most Americans believe he has mishandled and onto political terrain he considered more favorable. Mr. Trump has sought to focus voter attention instead on violence in cities, his Supreme Court nomination, mail-in ballots, and Mr. Biden's relationship with liberals. Aside from the campaign, the symbolism of an infected president could rattle governors and business owners trying to assess when and how to reopen or keep open shops, schools, parks, beaches, restaurants, factories, and other workplaces. Eager to restore a semblance of normal life before the election, Mr. Trump has dismissed health concerns to demand that schools reopen, college football resume play, and businesses resume full operation. In his 8 decades of life, Mr. Trump belongs to an age category deemed most vulnerable to the virus. 8 out of every 10 deaths attributed to the United States have been among those 65 or older. Mr. Trump has been resistant to permitting details of his health to be made public, raising questions about his overall condition. He made an unannounced trip in November to Walter Reed National Military Medical Center that prompted speculation that he had an undisclosed medical ailment. But the White House insisted that he simply underwent routine tests without revealing what they were or what they showed. But while Mr. Trump has reported to have high cholesterol and tips the scale at 243 pounds, which is considered obese for his height, the president's doctor pronounced Mr. Trump in very good health last year after his last full medical checkup. And, unlike many of those who have succumbed to the virus, he will have the best medical care available. A variety of people around Mr. Trump were previously infected by the virus, including, most recently, Robert C. O'Brien, his national security advisor, who had a mild case before returning to work in August. Others infected included Kimberly Guilfoyle, his son's girlfriend, a White House valet, Katie Miller, Vice President Mike Pence's press secretary, as well as some Secret Service agents, campaign advance workers, and a Marine in the president's helicopter unit. Herman Cain, a former Republican presidential candidate and political ally of Mr. Trump's, died of the virus in July after attending the president's campaign rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where Mr. Cain, like many in the arena, was seen not wearing a mask at least part of the time. Mr. Trump has repeatedly expressed confidence in public about his own health, saying he was not concerned about being exposed, despite his various close calls. "I'm on stage and that's very far away, and so I'm not concerned at all," he said last month, brushing off worries about crowded rallies. Behind the scenes, the self-described germaphobe was angry in the spring that his valet, who was among those who serve him food, had not been wearing a mask before testing positive, according to people in touch with him. Mr. Trump privately expressed irritation with people who got too close to him. According to the president, he began taking the I'm not going to say the word, guys. He began taking something, anti-malaria drug, proactively around this time, and later said it caused no adverse effects. In the days after Mrs. Miller's positive test, Mr. Pence opted to stay physically away from Mr. Trump to avoid a possible exposure, while 3 top public health officials, including Dr. Anthony S. Fauci, who was on the White House virus task force, went into some form of self-quarantine. The White House ordered some employees to work from home and those who came to work to wear masks except when sitting at their desks and appropriate distance from their colleagues, just as Mr. Trump and Mr. Pence were being tested every day. Those coming into proximity to them were subject to daily tests as well, while other White House employees had tests every several days. But those protocols were soon relaxed, and most White House officials were rarely seen wearing masks, at least when the president was present. While the virus is much deadlier than the flu, the vast majority of people infected by it recover, especially if there's no underlying condition. But the threat climbs with age. If Mr. Trump becomes symptomatic, it could take him weeks to recover. Under the 25th Amendment, a medically incapacitated president has the option of temporarily transferring power to vice president and can reclaim his authority whenever he deems himself fit for duty. Since the amendment was ratified in 1967, presidents have done so only 3 times. In 1985, President Ronald Reagan underwent a colonoscopy and briefly turned over power to Vice President George Bush, although he did not explicitly cite the amendment in doing so. President George W. Bush did invoke the amendment twice in temporarily turning over power to Vice President Dick Cheney during colonoscopies in 2002 and 2007. Under the Presidential Succession Act, if both Mr. Trump and Mr. Pence were unable to serve, Speaker Nancy Pelosi of California would step in. In the spring, the White House said it had no plans for such eventuality. "That's not even something that we're addressing," said Kayleigh McEnany, the White House press secretary. "We're keeping the president healthy. We're keeping the vice president healthy, and they're healthy at this moment, and they'll continue to be." There is a long history of presidents falling seriously ill while in office, including some afflicted during epidemics. George Washington was feared close to death amid an influenza epidemic during his 2nd year, while Woodrow Wilson became sick during Paris peace talks after World War I with what some specialists and historians believe was the influenza that ravaged the world from 1918 through 1920. 4 presidents have died in office of natural causes: William Henry Harrison, Zachary Taylor, Warren G. Harding, and Franklin D. Roosevelt. While Wilson endured a debilitating stroke and Dwight D. Eisenhower had a heart attack in his first term and a stroke in his second, 4 others were assassinated in office: Abraham Lincoln, James A. Garfield, William McKinley, and John F. Kennedy. But such health crises in the White House have been rare in recent times. Since Reagan was shot in 1981, no president has been known to confront a life-threatening condition while in office. Okay, and now I'm actually going to read a very short article because I want to go over what's going to happen with the election and what happens if the president gets too sick to perform. Like, what is the situation? So here it is. So this is from BBC.com. It says, what happens when a U.S. president is too sick to work? The virus presents a novel situation, but protecting the office of the presidency is something U.S. lawmakers have planned for and managed before. While President Donald Trump could be one of the millions who have recovered from the virus with mild to no symptoms, he could also require more serious treatment. Here's a look at what happens if he does. Sorry, I got an itch on my nose. Okay, it says what the Constitution's 25th Amendment says. First, let's lay out our cast of characters. In addition to the president, we've got the Vice President Mike Pence, Speaker of the House and Representatives Nancy Pelosi, the Democrat leader, and the Republican Senator Chuck Grassley, who, as President pro tempore, heads the Senate in the absence of the Vice President. If the President becomes unable to perform his role, the Constitution places the powers and duties of the office into the Vice President's hands. The 25th Amendment, ratified in the late 60s, makes this process clear. In the present situation, here's how it could play out. Suppose Mr. Trump learns he will need to undergo major hospital treatment for the virus. He must then pen a letter to Ms. Pelosi and Mr. Grassley to inform both chambers of Congress that he's unable to serve. At this point, the Vice President becomes the acting president. Mr. Trump will need to send Congress another letter when he returns to say he's ready to resume the role. But what happens if Mr. Trump isn't physically able to send the letter? Then, that responsibility will fall to Mr. Pence, plus a majority of Mr. Trump's cabinet leaders. This group will then write to Ms. Pelosi and Mr. Grassley to say that Mr. Pence is immediately becoming acting president. Because I've heard a lot of people talking about Pelosi's going to step up, and that could happen if Pence also possibly gets sick. Let's continue to take a look. Again, Mr. Trump will need to write the lawmakers when he returns to say he is no longer incapacitated. If Mr. Trump and the cabinet disagree, then it's up to Congress to vote on whether Mr. Trump is fit to retake control. While presidential incapacity would be a serious national situation, the government would be able to function in a largely uninterrupted way until the president is recovered, Brookings Institution senior fellow John Hudak explained in an analysis piece looking at the possibility earlier this summer. Will the election be postponed if Trump is incapacitated? A lot of people are wondering this. It's unlikely. The U.S. has never postponed a presidential election before. Any decisions to do so would have to come from Congress. The Constitution granted Congress the power to set election day. Lawmakers enshrined the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November every 4 years as that day. To change that now would mean both the House of Representatives, controlled currently by the opposing Democrats, and the Senate, controlled by Mr. Trump's Republicans, would need to agree on altering the law in the next 30 days. Analysts say this outcome seems nigh impossible, given the partisan divide. Another possibility is that even if Mr. Trump is incapacitated on Election Day, his name remains on the ballot. Yet another, albeit remote, option. The Republican National Committee could try to put a replacement candidate out there, but it's unlikely that there's enough time to do so while meeting state election deadlines. Has the president been incapacitated before? In 1985, when President Ronald Reagan was hospitalized for cancer surgery, he placed the Vice President, George H.W. Bush, in charge. In 2002 and 2007, President George W. Bush did the same thing with his vice president when he was sedated during routine colonoscopies. When it comes to sudden health issues in an election year, few can match the drama that beset Teddy Roosevelt, who completed an 84-minute speech after being shot. What? After being shot in the final weeks of the 1912 campaign. He had to suspend campaigning and came in third as a progressive candidate. That's insane. In the same election, Republican Vice President James Sherman died just days before he and President William Howard Taft were up for re-election. Republican officials did not have enough time to name a replacement before Election Day, but Mr. Taft eventually lost. Democrat Woodrow Wilson became president. So, it looks like if everything was going to plan, then it would go to Mike Pence, right? But per what this says, let's say, because this is in the White House, it might be infecting a lot of people. Let's say that that doesn't happen. Then it goes to Nancy Pelosi and then Chuck Grassley. So that would be the thing. So it's Donald Trump, Mike Pence, Nancy Pelosi, and Chuck Grassley. Now, I think we can all pray that it doesn't come to pass that way, but we'll see what happens. Now, let's talk about the theories. Some people are saying because of the horrific debate that just happened, that this is all one big blank theory, and that President Trump is actually just using this to try to postpone or get out of the election because President Trump has already been trying to postpone the election because he is saying that there's going to be voter fraud when it comes to the post office. This is one thing. However, I don't agree with that because I've heard this theory. I don't think that's true because for the president to say consistently for the last year, we're going to get through this, this isn't that big a deal, let's reopen everything, let's put the kids in schools, right? For him to now get this only makes him look bad. It does. This is an L. This is a big L for him. And so far, he had been in regard to how the American people look at him, except for the extremists, right? He had been looked at as getting wins. These were wins happening. And this is a very big blow. This is a very big blow for him before the election. Now, if you ask, can they postpone the election? Is something going to happen with the election? I want to give a couple of opinions because I've heard people say it's never happened before, so we have to go off of history and we've had pandemics. Yeah, but we're a bit smarter than we were in the past about health. And I would think that we value our health more now than we did back then because back in the day when they had the pandemic, people were like lucky to live to 40 or 50, if that. People didn't live that long. They didn't live as long as we do or we have the option of doing now. That number is going down because thank you, government, for allowing all this stuff in our food and water. It drives me nuts. I don't want to get into it, y'all. To me, that's not even a theory. This is just fact. It just makes me upset. What's that place in Michigan? Hey, Michigan, hey! They got bombed with heavy metal poisoning. I can't think of it right now. Y'all, sound off in the comments. What am I trying to say? I'm so sorry. I'm really tired today. I cannot think of it, and I'm always bringing up this. It's near Detroit. What am I thinking of? It's where Michael Moore is from. Anyway, I know Michael Moore's from there, but I can't. Flint! Hey, Flint, hey. We know what happened there. So, in regard to all of this, I don't think Trump would do that because this gives him an L. And a lot of people are criticizing and mocking Trump, especially I've seen a lot of parents going, so our kids will be unaffected, let's open the schools. But you can't even not get it. And Trump's saying it's very, very unlikely people get it. It's almost, with all the stuff that Trump has put out, I see this from a few angles, but let me say if I am being fair, because you guys have seen me and it looks like I've done a lot of pro-Trumping. And it's not that I've done pro-Trumping, it's that I've shown a lot of the media bias when it comes to Trump, against Trump, because it bothers me. But let's be clear, I agree with a lot of your criticisms. He's come out and said it's not that big a deal, it's this and that. He even said this thing isn't a thing, a real possible thing. Please infer, gotta be careful with YouTube. And in the process of doing that, of coming out and saying all of that, Trump has now gotten it. And now he's quarantining. They're quarantining. And it sounds like he's actually feeling sick from it. It's, a lot of people get it and they don't have symptoms. That happens sometimes. But he's actually feeling symptoms. And what I was saying is, in regard to health, we know more now than we did, and I think we value health more. So I don't think that argument fully holds water. We've never done this before. Well, yeah, but people were stupid. 100 years ago, we let 3-year-olds work in factories. We're way more evolved. Let's not try to, I think to compare us to people back then, we are negating and stifling our own evolution. With that being said, do I think they're going to postpone it? No. In fact, I think this is the Democrats' dream come true, to be honest, because let's be honest. The debate was a dumpster fire. I didn't see all of it. I saw bits. Just the clips I've seen, I went, oh, Lord. I was surprised in the few clips I saw that Biden was as coherent as he was. My first thought, and I hate to say this because people always say this about me being hyper, but I was like, what is he on? He's actually coming across like a person. He seems to know where he is, right? That's another thing, though. I want to go into that narrative that Trump's campaign is spinning because I think that may actually be a bit... Biden is out of it and says a lot of stupid stuff and probably isn't fit. But then I also see manipulation on the end of Trump's team when it comes to trying to craft a narrative of who Biden is. Again, I try to say this to you guys. I am not pro anything. I am not pro any of these people. And a lot of them I'm not, you know what I'm against? I'm against the ones who are really bad. The ones that like to do things that aren't nice with women and kids. Infer. Please infer. And I'm also, if you want to know who I'm anti, it's anti-media. But I want to show everything, in my opinion, that's going on both sides and show you both sides of the manipulation. I see less manipulation from Trump's side when it comes to certain things, but that doesn't mean there isn't some. So now I'll tell you, I don't think we're going to have a delayed election because the Congress will not allow it. The Senate might, but the House won't. This is Nancy Pelosi's dream come true, y'all. She is getting a blowout. She's getting another blowout right now, excited as the day is long or getting short because it's fall in the United States. She is excited. Get it, Nance. So I don't think in terms of this that anything's going to happen in regards to, like them delaying the election. Do I think we should? I would say I think if any one of them is sick, I would be all for it. But again, I'm very much I'm very pro-health and a very big health advocate when it comes to people's health because I know what I've been through, right? And I know what other people have been through with their chronic health issues. So I just want to make that really, really clear in regards to all of this. However, there is something I want to bring up now that I've kind of gone through all of that and some of the conspiracy theories I'm hearing that is really bothering me. I'm going to call some people out. Please understand, when I say Republicans, Democrats, left and right, I'm not referring to you people that are watching. I believe most of you, no matter what way you swing, are level-headed enough. We could all have a peaceful conversation in person and we could get different perspectives and learn something. I'm talking about the people at the top and the people who decide to go extreme. And as I've said, over the last 10 years, social media has done an amazing job to divide us to think you have to be one extreme or the other, while social media is constantly manipulating all of us with different pieces of information. We'll get into that one day. I've been wanting to do a video about this, about exactly what social media does to manipulate everybody differently to skew them. So we're all getting different pieces of information and all thinking the other one is stupid. But they give this narrative that you have to be on one side or the other, one extreme or the other, and you know what? You don't. And that's what I'm here to say. We can see the BS in all of it, and I feel like when we can see everything clearly going on without a bias, you get more perspective. You get more perspective. You get deeper perspective, you get deeper sense of wisdom, and then we can come together and fix things. And that's what I'm all about on this channel. And if we are divided and fighting each other, then we are not able to see what's happening at the top and fix the people at the top that are manipulating the strings, which I don't even wish them ill will. I don't wish anybody ill will. With that being said on the ill will topic, sorry guys, I'm really stuffy. Allergies today. So here's what is really disheartening. For many years, the left painted itself as the kind, tolerant, loving left, and they still like to parade around like that. Facebook is full. It's full, non-stop, of people that I am seeing right now who are saying the most awful things. They are happy that President Trump is sick. They are happy Melania is sick. They are laughing that they are sick. They are wishing harm and even the end for them. And I gotta tell you, I'm looking at this and I'm just as disgusted as I was in 2016 when people did it to Hillary. To those of you that don't remember, when Hillary was campaigning, by the way, I do not like Hillary, okay? If you want my opinion on Hillary, aside from Benghazi, let's look at the Haitian homes scandal. Their Clinton Foundation was supposed to, they got millions of dollars to go build homes in Haiti, only like 5 were built. Like, I do not like the Clintons. So trust me when I say that. I like them less than I like them less than I like Nancy Pelosi. And y'all know how I feel about Nancy Pelosi. However, with that being said, in 2016, she was showing clear signs of cognitive decline and that something was wrong illness-wise. She was coughing a lot. There was a lot of debate around her health, and her people were constantly lying. Now, here's the thing. On the one hand, I'm a firm believer, it's your health, it's your business. Because I've been in the position to be uber scrutinized about my health in a public forum, and that was a horrible situation. I opened up to it. It was my fault, but I know what that feels like. And I also know what it feels like to have health issues and not have people believe you. That's kind of not here or there. That's beside the point. But when it comes to what happened with Clinton, same thing. I saw people on the right, Republicans, happy about it. I hope she burns, I blah, blah, blah. And here's the thing. You have every right to be upset. You have every right to feel the way you want to feel. I am not trying to take that away from you. What I am saying is I am sad that as a human race, we are still in a place where we are wishing harm on one another. I do not like Hillary, but I would not wish what I've gone through with my health, what some of you have gone through with your health, what other people with chronic illness issues go through. I would not wish that on my worst enemy. And I would not wish that on anybody. So to see her campaigning and going through what she was going through in silence, even if I don't like her, my heart went out to her because I'm a human being with empathy. I don't like everything Trump says or does. I don't think he should be a president. I'm scared because to me, he looks like the best candidate we have, and that's scary to me. Doesn't mean I'm voting for him. Doesn't mean I'm telling you who to vote for. But I feel like that's how a lot of Americans look at Trump, and that's why he ultimately got elected before, and why I think he most likely may get elected again. This situation with him getting sick, I think, is a big wrench that's tossed in there. We'll have to see how he plays this. He's pretty smart with his maneuvers. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But when I was younger, as I've said this before, I was looked at as extreme liberal. I grew up in a very conservative area, a very Christian area. No disrespect, hi Christians, hi. In fact, I have a lot of Christian values. I don't adhere to any spirituality though, because I also have a lot of New Age beliefs, a lot of Buddhism, Taoism, Hinduism. You know, I take stuff from everywhere. I'm just a big amalgamation of stuff that works for me. These are my tools to help me navigate the life that I'm in at the moment. Growing up, I was viewed as an extreme liberal because I was like, hey, gay people should be able to get married. I was very pro-gay people. I still am. Hi, LGBTQ, whatever letters I'm missing, hi. Hi, everyone. I believe as long as you're not hurting somebody else, do whatever you need to do for you. That's what I believe. As long as you don't hurt yourself or other people. And even then, hurting yourself. Obviously, I don't say that anybody should, but really just do no harm. What's the harm, you know? So now it's funny that as I've grown up, I probably have gotten a little more conservative, but I think that happens when you have a family, when you have kids, when you start to look at and realize your own mortality as it is, and try to have structure for those newfound settings of adulthood. I think that just kind of naturally happens a little bit, but I still also have a lot of liberal viewpoints and ideas. I have a good, I think, mix of both. And it's frustrating to watch people say I'm an extreme conservative and I'm the big R word, or I'm a this or a that, in very negative context, because I'm not going to 1,000% put down President Trump and wish harm on him. And they were painted for a long time as the left. They were the kind, tolerant, loving left. They accepted everybody. Now it's agree with everything we agree with, or we're going to destroy your life. And I have watched people, even people that I grew up with, who have gone from being kind, wonderful people that I respect, that I really like to be around. I've watched that devolve into the most hateful people who I've never seen people want to hate somebody so vehemently when a lot of times he does nothing wrong. Hear me out. He does a lot of stuff wrong. He's put stuff stupidly. He says stuff stupidly. Sometimes he talks divisively. I get it. And there are things I don't agree with. I get that. But when 85% of what's put out about him in the media is lies, people like me in the middle who just want to weigh information now don't believe anything anybody says that's negative. And that's a dangerous place, because how do we know what to criticize? So I can't tell people what to do. And I don't want to soapbox on some moral high ground, but what I would say is I think to create the best planet we can, I encourage everybody, if you're mad at him, you have every right to be mad at Trump for making your kids go back to school and saying this isn't a big deal. You have every right. You have every right that as people working for hazard pay, he put you in this situation. You have every right. Trust me, I'm not taking that away from you. I think we should be careful as a society to not go back to our Roman roots. And I'm sure it goes back further than that. This is just the thing in humanity, tribalism. Let's be careful not to wish harm and destruction on other people, because I'm a firm believer when you wish it on other people, be careful that can come back on you. And I just want to create positive solutions for everybody everywhere. That's what I'm all about. So it really disheartens me. But I'll tell you what gives me hope, because I like to end things on a hopeful note here. What gives me hope in this situation is that when it comes to this debate that just happened, my goal has been to try to get people to see both sides are BS. It's all BS. Maybe one side's a little more full of it than the other, and then that reverses and switches from time to time, right? But it's all BS. And let's see through the BS so we can figure out how to actually find conclusions and solutions and stop fighting with one another. For the first time on Facebook, I saw people who were both extreme left and extreme right after the election going, I don't care what side you are, we should all be embarrassed. I'm embarrassed. It was awful. Both candidates were awful. That gave me so much hope, because I feel like that is the American public on a mass level, without manipulation from social media and all the media that we have there, starting to see the BS. and that makes me happy. So I wanted to go ahead and put this out there. And now stimulus, I think personally, there's one of two ways this can go. This can either be a really good thing for stimulus in regards to Trump, and I have a video coming about this, Trump still going rogue with stimulus checks. He is still making hints about that. We're going to talk about that because they can't seem to get their you-know-what together. Now, we'll talk in detail later this weekend about everything going on with stimulus and where things are at and where things are headed with that. And I'm very excited to give you guys updates on that. But it could be a good thing. This could be Trump taking a chance to go rogue because honestly, he would need it at this point to help him get another win for the election. Or this completely delays more things. I think it'll really depend on what happens with President Trump and Melania's health. And with that, we'll have to wait and see. But I think this could mean good things for us and stimulus checks, and I will show you those signs as I see them, so stay tuned for that. Okay, guys, if you like the video and you'd like to help me with my channel since I'm now not monetized and I have to totally start over, please give me a big thumbs up, like the channel, subscribe, hit notifications so you can be notified daily when it's coming to the pipeline for you and your stimulus money. Comment, let me know everything you think and feel, multiple comments. I accept and are great, and please sound off in the comment section and share this content with anybody that you know is struggling right now. People who are on unemployment, waiting for unemployment, needing stimulus checks, people who are just struggling with the economy, SBA loan and grant issues still. I just want to have the opportunity to help as many people as I can, and I would love to have that opportunity, and I appreciate that. And guys, if we can build this channel, if I can get it monetized and start making money, we can start doing giveaways, and I can start giving out $100 gift cards. So help me get to where I can help y'all, and then I will feel much better about being on this channel and doing what I do. So thank you guys. Again, 1,000 times, thank you for all the love and support. I'm going to end this video here. Also, guys, if you want, follow me on Facebook. On Facebook, I am at Katie's Insight, like the page, and the group is Katie's Corner. It's going to take a few days for me to get the name changed. Facebook's already told me. So it's Katie's Insight, like the page, join the group at Katie's Corner, ask all the stimulus questions you want. We're all here to help each other. Love to see you there. Okay, guys, I'm going to go. I'm going to relax and get videos ready for tomorrow. Thank you guys so much. Take care. Lots of love and blessings, and I will see you guys and talk to you guys soon. Okay, bye-bye.